Hello, my friend. This is Clyde. Stand up for what is right. Daniel 1:18 and 19 says, At the end of the time set by the king to bring them into his service, the chief official presented them to Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them, and he found none equal to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah. So they entered the king's service. Today we continue our conversation about Daniel in Babylon. Babylon was the seat of the Babylonian Empire. Daniel and his friends were taken by force from their country Judah into Babylon. Babylon was not their home. But we learned that Daniel and his friends made a choice not to be defiled or contaminated by the king's food and wine. The text today is a launching pad for the larger conversation. Instead of eating the king's food and wine, these Jewish young men asked for vegetables and water for 10 days. What happened? Naturally, they were going to be tested. As a child of God, if you make a decision to live a pure and godly life in a world when you could go with the flow and enjoy the seemingly good things of Babylon, you are going to be tested. In this case, Daniel and his friends were tested by the king himself. And what was the result? He found that these Jewish young men who had stood firmly in their commitment to not eat the king's food and wine, that they were far superior in wisdom and understanding, and 10 times better than the elite intelligentsia in the whole kingdom. Because of their outstanding performance on the tests, they entered into the king's service. They were instantly placed in the king's inner circle of wise men. That's a huge reward. Let's continue. When you honor God, God will honor you. Let me say that again. When you honor God, God will honor you. These guys stood on the values that their Jewish religion taught them. Please know that as a child of God, you are going to be presented with attractive things, positions, things on the surface which seem good, but behind them are opportunities to compromise your biblical values. If you're bold enough to stand up for God and not compromise, my friend, God will honor you. Daniel and his guys were rewarded by being appointed to top positions. But that was the beginning. On one occasion, the king had dreams and needed his elite magicians and enchanters to tell him the dreams and interpret them. Naturally, they could not do so, and the furious king ordered that all the wise men, including Daniel and his friends, who serve in his kingdom, were to be executed. Well, Daniel and his guys, they turned to God. And God revealed the dream and the interpretation of the dream to Daniel. What was the result? When Daniel told the king the dream and the interpretation, the king was so impressed that he promoted Daniel and his friends. Great salary increase, amazing benefit. This became a pattern. Their faith would be tested at different times. Think about the case of the fiery furnace. The king had built a golden statue and demanded that on this special occasion, when the orchestra struck up the music, that everyone in the kingdom should turn and bow down and worship the golden image. If they didn't do that, they would be thrown in a fiery furnace. All the king wanted was for them to bow down. That is no big thing. Really? These boys, they remembered that they should not bow down before any image and they should not worship anyone or anything else but God. They could not have gone through the motions. They could have gone through the motions, but they told themselves that in their hearts, they were not going to do it. Sometimes we choose to do things on the outside, but on the inside, we tell ourselves that we are standing up for God. But they did not do so. Instead, they were prepared to die in the furnace by standing up for their spiritual values. Seriously now, what would you have done? Many times as children of God, we are faced with some situations where if we went along with the crowd or if we did what was asked of us, although it is wrong, we would do that for our protection. Sometimes we relax our values just to not stand out as an oddball in the crowd. Bowing down to the idols seemed like an innocent act which you were not committed to. But those boys, they said no. And at the 11th hour, God stepped in and delivered them. Finally, later there was a case where Daniel's fellow government officials set up something that had the king passing a decree that for 30 days nobody should be seen praying. If they did, they would be thrown in the den of lions. That's easy, right? Pray in privacy, or maybe not pray at all. Pray in your heart. Just conform for 30 days. It will soon pass. Daniel did not compromise, and so he was thrown in the lion's den. My friend, again I ask you, what would you have done? Come on, stop lying. Just to save your life, you would give it, right? But Daniel's faith was honored by God, and he spent a night with the lions, and he survived. God sent an angel to shut the mouths of the lions. This is not fairy tale, my friend. God will honor you. God will bless you if you stand up for him. When you refuse to compromise your godly standard, God will honor you. Think about it. It is easy to compromise, but it is so rewarding when you stand up for godliness and biblical values. My friend, be a Daniel, regardless of the consequences. God will take care of you even at the last minute. You stand up for him, and he will never let you down.